Being a college graduate is an expectation that was imposed upon us from birth. What is most staggering looking back at it is that there was no plan in place to pay for it.
My oldest sister, she went to school, and I remember just how hard it was on the family to, just pay for that, and how we all kind of had to sacrifice for her to go. And so that was always weighing on me, this idea that I would be in debt, the family would have to struggle.
Telling my parents that I'd gotten into UK, and they said, oh, well, we're not going to be able to do that because we can't afford it. And that was really the first time that I realized that my opportunities were not necessarily the same as all of my other peers.
And I watched my parents really struggle with financial insecurity, and they still have mountains of student debt. They are not going to pay it off. They're probably going to age out of it, to be honest. And looking at that scared me. And I didn't know how I was going to go to college, to be honest.
There is long-term consequences for incurring that student loan debt. The traditional model is that individuals of means tap into their individual savings, tap into their income streams, and are able to then pay for themselves or their kids to go through the necessary hoops to thrive in our modern economy.
It is a real ceiling for people who have a low income for what they're able to achieve in life. And college is something that, is very expensive and often out of reach.
When you treat education like a consumer good, it limits it to just those who can afford it. However, the distribution of wealth does not equal the distribution of intellect.
I always knew I wanted to be a writer, even if I didn't say it out loud very much, because I knew it was a kind of ridiculous dream. So I read a ton of books, and when I was in middle school, I was working on my first novel and stuff like that. And at some point, I tried to become a lot more practical and think about I'm going to need a real job because this is not a real job and this won't pay the bills and that kind of thing. Probably as I watched my own parents struggle with various kinds of financial insecurity and move a lot and find different jobs and stuff like that. I was like, okay, that's a dream. I don't need to do that.
And so luckily somebody in my family actually introduced me to Berea College.
I was born poor, I grew up poor, and Berea provided me the opportunity to maximize my potential.
I was super excited. I opened it, I was screaming. I was telling my parents, hey, I got into Berea College.
I graduated college with no debt at all.
It was really like getting the golden ticket in Willy Wonka.
Berea tuition-free schools gives an individual more flexibility to follow things that they're truly passionate about versus feeling compelled to chase the almighty dollar.
I have experience within my own family of people who have followed career paths that they weren't excited about because they didn't end up going to a school that, gave them the freedom, the financial freedom to try things and experiment.
When I graduated from Berea, I didn't have this pressure that a lot of students have to go straight into the workforce and make a ton of money to be able to pay off their debt.
So my life now is that I am a full-time writer. I have published 2 novels. I have a novella coming out this year, and I'm contracted for 2 more novels. I support my family of 4 just on this income, and my husband watches my 2- and 4-year-old children.
I host a daily news podcast that reaches millions of people every week and does a real service and helps people get involved where they are on a local level in politics. If I had to pay for college, I honestly think that I would have a completely different career path.
I knew that I wanted to shape a career in making a difference, and I found that through my own experience and wanting to make a difference in ending educational inequity.
I wouldn't be a lawyer, I wouldn't be a judge, I wouldn't be a board member for the ACLU of Kentucky, I wouldn't be thriving the way I was if I had stayed back home and went to community college.
If I hadn't gone to Berea College, I would be in debt. I would be substantially in debt. I would have spent my early 20s trying desperately to find some sort of desk job or something that used a scrap of my skills and research just to pay off the debt that I had accumulated. I wouldn't have met my husband, I wouldn't have gone on adventures, I wouldn't have done all these things that made me able to have a career in the creative world. If tuition was free, we would have a vastly more equitable and just society, and I think we would have, and this is a less measurable thing, but I think we would have a genuinely happier population of people who could pursue what they wanted for the reasons that they wanted. I have 2 children, and I don't want them to go into a world where they can choose exactly one college if they want to pursue their dreams. I want them to have more opportunity and a better society than I had.